Hello and welcome to the Wooden Ball Show. I'm your host, Dave Ball, also known as Blinston on Reddit and at Blinston1 on Twitter. And like always, I'm joined by my partner in crime, Blake Wood, who is known as Shot My Clerk on Twitter and B-Town Bum on Reddit. And today we are joined by two special guests. From our resident Islanders fan who is on the Our Hockey After Hour show. We're Andrew Paddock, known as APAD on Twitter, and Andrew Paddock on Twitter. I got that backwards. You're APAD on Reddit. And then we have Stephanie Morrison. I think you have Stephanie Morrison 36 on Twitter, right?
38.
38, I was close. And then Grizzly Bear on Reddit. So how you all doing?
Pretty good.
That's good. Okay, so I guess we'll just hop right into our first topic, which is the NHL Quick Hits. And right off the back, Florida signs Eric Branson to a 2-year deal. So how do you guys feel about that?
That's a pretty good deal. Goodbranson's a defenseman, I want to say.
Is he a defenseman?
Hmm.
I thought he was a forward, but I could be wrong.
It would have helped for us to know this before we started, but
probably should have all this information pulled up.
Mm-hmm. My apologies to Panthers fans. We do not recognize your rosters as well as you do.
He is a defenseman. You are correct.
Yes, and as you could observe from free agency, Florida's biggest their top priority was shoring up their defense. Getting more defensemen and building up their defensive unit, making them stronger. And
they were just trying to build everything, basically. It seems.
Yes, and
familiarity. Ridiculous contracts.
Familiarity breeds optimism.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So. Okay, so. Andrew or Seth, do you have any opinions on it?
It's a good deal for the Panthers. As Blake said, it's all about building that core up.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So I guess going to the next topic, which is the Blues re-signed Steve Ott to a 2-year deal worth $5.2 million. How do you feel about that, Blake? It's your team.
He doesn't get on the score sheet often, of course. I think that may go without saying. But I'm going to jump right into the stats versus intangible debate here, I guess. But Steve Ott is that intangible guy that we need. I know some people are going to disagree with me, because intangibles, but he brings the grit, he brings the compete level that we all like to joke about, but he brings that stuff, and he's a very solid fourth line guy. I for one would like to see LaPierre, Ott, Reeves fourth line. There you go, ball game. And come to think of it, speaking of my team, there is one story that occurred today that you did not put in the run sheet, Dave.
What was that?
This is in regards to Vladimir Sobotka.
Oh, right, that. Yes, he signed with the KHL, didn't he?
Yes, he signed with Avangard Omsk, a 4-year deal. I don't know. 4 or 3-year deal. We still own his rights.
So if he ever comes back, you can just be like, he's mine.
Yes. I know a lot of people are in panic mode, I guess, about it, but I'm okay with it. One of my unpopular opinions, I guess, is Berglund being better than Sobotka. To put it simply, Berglund's worst season was still better than Sobotka's best season, and we still have Berglund, so I'm not too upset about it.
Okay. So, anything else you wanted to add into my run sheet?
No.
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 So the next we have Danley Heatley signed 1 year, $1 million with the Ducks. So 1507 is heading to the Ducks now.
And as a side note, it's being reported today that Danny Heatley asked permission from Ryan Getzlaff to wear the number 15.
First of all. Yes. That's a funny picture. I'm gonna post that picture. So if in case anybody missed it, that was a funny picture.
But anyway, is it a good pickup? I'm not too sure right now.
I mean, for $1 million, it's not
Well,
bad.
yeah. And it was only a 1-year deal, I think, was it?
Yeah, just 1 year deal worth $1 million.
Mm-hmm.
Not,
Well, it's a little pickup there, If you don't like him, you wouldn't have to keep him for that long, I guess.
it's just 1 year. I mean, at $1 million, it shouldn't be too hard to move if you do need to move it for whatever reason. I don't know why anybody would want to pick up Danny Heatley, but I guess we'll head right into the interviews now. We have our resident Islanders fan, as I said earlier, Andrew Paddock. How long have you been an Islanders fan, first off?
Pretty much since I was born, '92. My dad got me hooked on it early on. It's a shame though. He has lost interest in the Islanders ever since they've gotten bad to worse to bad. Even in the playoffs last year, he's kind of I'm not really that interested in the team anymore. But since then, I've been a big fan. They frustrate me, but I can never turn my back on them.
Sign of a true fan. So, speaking of this past season, how much did you cry during it?
It wasn't so much crying; it was just a lot of sighing and accepting reality.
Mm-hmm.
When the season began in October, for the first month or so, we were winning games, we were playing well, and it's okay, we were just finding our way, but it looks like we'll manage something out of this. And came November and December, which is just when the tears started flowing. I don't even remember how many games we lost in November, but it seemed like the entire month was one loss after another.
Mm-hmm.
And then came December. In December, it continued, but we leveled off mid to late in the month, and we started actually producing. After we got Vanek in the trade, at first he didn't click with Tavares, but they eventually started clicking well. And in January, early January, we started showing signs okay, maybe we can make this work. And that's when the other rumblings came out that we may trade Vanek again because of his contract was up at the end of the year.
Mm-hmm.
So even though there was a glimmer of hope that, okay, we're not going to make the playoffs, but we're at least be contentious and maybe ruin someone else's chances, it was just a quick glimmer because Vanek soon got traded and Tavares was out after hurting himself in Sochi.
Yep.
So the rest of the season was just okay, it's just going to be up and down. And actually, after January too, my school changed the whole cable plan that I have. I couldn't even watch the team on TV.
Wow.
So I was just reading the newspaper and looking up on the line.
You didn't watch any of the streams out there?
I don't. I should do streams. I'm gonna get hockey streams for this season coming up.
Okay.
But I just it was kind of at that point.
I mean, yeah, at that point, it's kind of like my team isn't really going anywhere. I don't really have much to hope for.
Yeah.
I guess. Yeah.
The bigger news was okay, how is Tavares progressing post his surgery and with his recovery?
Yeah.
That's everything everyone was very worried about.
What type of injury did he have again?
It was, I think it was his knee.
Was it his knee?
Yeah. I know it was a hit that he got against in one of the games, but I believe it was his knee.
Yeah, I'm looking it up now. Uh, it
It was an MCL
was MCL.
and torn meniscus.
Ooh, ouch.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not good. So
He was at that point too when he got hurt. He was third in the NHL with 66 points in 59 games. Damn it!
yeah, he could have been your MVP of the year. He could have went for the Hart Trophy maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, he could have been one of those players that went for it if your team was able to. I guess if you were out of the playoffs, you might not have been considered for it, but you never know.
Um, it could have been one. It could be one of those rare exceptions because you do see that in other sports or sometimes where the team's bad, but you have that one player who's just so
Yeah.
outstanding that they do have to consider him for an award. Kind of like when Steve Carlton won the Cy Young win, that very 59 win team, 59 wins in total by the Philadelphia Phillies that season.
Yeah.
So that does happen. But there was one interesting statistic that I saw. It was just like one of those fun statistics that if we were to get back in the playoff race, we would have had to basically win or get a point in overtime in every game until like April
Wow.
to at least be considered in the wild card hunt.
So you would have had to go on a not like a pure point, like non-regulation win streak,
Pretty
or
much.
you know what I mean. They had to win
Yeah.
every single game in either regulation or lose in overtime.
Yes.
Basically, try to get to overtime every single game.
Uh,
That's what
uh,
you'd have
a,
to do.
a point streak. A point streak.
Yes, thanks, Blake.
Yeah.
You knew what I was saying. I can totally speak today. Ugh. So I know you mentioned the Vanek trade when in your spiel. What did you think about the Vanek trade when it happened?
um, I was kind of like when the first trade happened because I'm actually more mad about the second trade
Mm,
when we traded him away. But when the first trade happened, my initial thought was looking at it was this is just a player for player swap, so it's all good. But then when I found out about the draft picks, I was a little frustrated
mm,
because yeah, Molson and Tavares worked really good as a pairing,
yeah.
but Molson was kind of iffy sometimes. He's almost the best way to compare him is where Grabner has trouble scoring sometimes. Molson is good at picking it up, but his range is more very close to the net, and we wanted more outside shooting.
Okay.
Guys who could go in and out, where Molson was more in front of the net. But when I heard about the picks involved, I was like, oh, great. This means we're going to do bad. Buffalo's getting those picks. They're going to get some really stellar players that we could have took, and it's just a continuation of everything that's happened.
Yeah. I mean, one of those picks is going to be next year's first round pick. If you guys
Yeah.
bomb again, you lost your chance at McDavid basically now. Because I don't think you got a first round pick at all during when you traded him away, did you?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't
I
think you
think
guys have
that
a
was.
first round pick at all next year.
I know with this draft this year, we had the option of trading away this pick that we used for Dal Cole or using it. We did use it for Dal Cole, but if we
Hmm.
gave away the pick from this year, we could have kept the pick for next year.
I mean, this year's was a top 5 pick.
It
So
was.
it's difficult to give up a top 5 pick and get a top 5 talent when next year your pick could, like, theoretically, it could be 30th because you win the Stanley Cup somehow.
Right.
So I would definitely have rather gone with the top 5. I would have done exactly what Snow
Yeah.
did, most likely.
It was a really smart move in the end.
Yeah. So, okay. So, you mentioned that since Tavares was hurt all season, how do you guys think you would have done if you had him this season? If he didn't get hurt?
Let's see. Even with us being out of the playoff hunt, I would say we would have not. We'll have to look at the standings from this past season real quickly.
I mean, you probably wouldn't have been top 5 pick, most likely.
Probably not. Realistically, if we had Tavares, I would have. Now, this is just a realistic theory, but
Mm-hmm.
we would have not finished 14th. We probably would have finished maybe, I want to say, like in the range from like 10 to 12.
Okay.
the standings realistically.
I mean, you guys weren't that far off from 10 to 12, basically.
Yeah,
It's only
yeah.
like 4 points separating you from that. Well,
Hmm.
a little bit more than 4 points, like 6 points. That's not that far.
It is.
Actually, more like 8 points, but still.
Yeah,
You guys could have done it with him. I mean, especially since, one of those was New Jersey, who was pretty bad this season.
yeah.
So, New Jersey, Ottawa was bad, and Toronto's Toronto. Could have easily leapfrogged over any of them. Yeah. So now we're moving into the past offseason that just happened. You guys signed a good number of players: T.J. Brennan, Corey Conacher, Mikhail Gabrovsky, Halak, Chad Johnson, Nikolai Kuhlman, and Jack Skelly. How do you feel about this team going forward now?
Well, the big one is I'm actually very pleased that we have an actual NHL goal tandem, especially after last year where it was Nabokov and then it was Nielsen and Poulin. Now, Poulin was okay, but he still needs work, and he's probably going to get sent down to Bridgeport again this year to work on it, even though he's up for arbitration soon. Actually, his arbitration hearing was, I think, yesterday.
Okay.
But Nielsen, on the other hand, was very much like Swiss cheese, so I'm glad that we found options to back up. For a backup option, and Halak, who, and I know Blake had, the Blues had Halak. I just hope his groin is okay and he doesn't do anything to hurt it.
Yeah, he's not a bad goaltender whatsoever, so.
No, I'm very pleased that we have an actual goal tandem, especially because Nabokov was very leaky the last 2 years, and you could tell his age was setting in net.
Yeah.
Other than that, looking at the rest of the players we got, T.J. Brennan was a depth move for defense. We still really need to get more like try and make a move for a top tier or somewhere near the top tier defenseman made by trade. Conacher, same thing, was a depth move. Honestly don't know where he fits because now we have a lot of forwards. I have a feeling that we're either going to flip him or he may get stuffed down the roster somewhere. Probably stuffed down the roster, but I'm hoping that we trade for him because I know Snow came out and said we're not trading Nielsen or I don't know if he said Grabner yet, but his name could be on the block. Grabowski and Kuhlman. This was the splash move that the Islanders made this offseason, and I'm very pleased with it. They're two very talented pair. It's a very talented pairing. And looking at a projected line, they'll probably be on the second line with Strome as on the right side.
Okay. Guys, you think Strome's going to finally make it up to the big leagues this year?
He got called up last year for some games at the end of the year. I did see him play a game, the one Islanders game that I went to last year, because I was away at school most of the year, was when they played the Sabres, and I think watching him play, even though it was a blowout from the start, Strome's talent is there, and it looks like his time in Bridgeport worked wonders for him because he really improved.
Okay.
The one thing I gotta comment, I love his speed. He went
really
for
fast?
a breakaway. Oh, he's pretty fast. He's not the fastest player on the team is probably Grabner, but Strome has some good moves on a breakaway that hopefully they keep working on because he looks like he's going to be a very talented winger if he keeps improving. I know he's still very young, but his potential is there.
Okay. So, do you think your team's going to make any more moves this season?
I hope so. I can't. I don't want to say yes. We're definitely gonna make moves. Because I'm not Garth Snow and I can't get into the mind of that man.
He'll do what he wants. He's Garth Snow.
It is the summer of Garth, though. But I hope the big hope is defense. We missed out, and I know Boyle's on the Rangers now because that's who we signed in free agency. Even though he has rights, but I hope we do make some trade of something, anything to bring
Mm,
in defensemen to shore up the defense in front of Halak, give
okay.
back line security for the forwards. But that's the one hope. It just has to be who Snow wants to put out there for a trade.
Mm,
Because some teams have been asking for certain players that he doesn't really want to part with.
yeah. And how long do you think it'll be until that defenseman comes to the Flyers? Because we seem to be taking all your defensemen.
Damn it. Let's say if we're in the playoff hunt, it'll be a season from now. If we're not, it will be before the deadline.
But they have to be the number one defenseman because we always take your number one defenseman.
This is true.
I mean, we took Mark Streit from you, took Andrew McDonald. So who do you
Yes.
think's gonna be your number one defenseman this year?
Um, hmm.
And how would he fit into our roster when we have no salary cap? Uh, anyway, you don't have to answer that now. It's just more of a joke.
Yeah, no, I'll answer that. Trade that. That'll be my trade deadline answer.
So, how do you think your team did in the draft this year?
Well, see, I didn't watch the draft this year because I was on vacation.
Oh,
But
well, if you want to listen to what happened during the draft, we have a 3-hour-long D4 The Mighty Dave show that cover the entire draft. So if you want to listen to us talk about it,
um, that is, I have to find 3 hours of my schedule to listen to that. But I did check in on the first two picks. I was looking at my phone, sitting by a pool.
just relaxing.
Yes, in a very tropical Hawaii. But I knew from the it was pretty much written like in February that we were, well, actually no, not February, in March that we were going to take Dow Cole in the draft. Everyone was
Okay.
saying like, okay, the Islanders are going to get. Even Snow said we're going to go with Dow Cole, although they did look briefly at Nylander for the
Mhm.
fifth pick. But I'm very pleased that we got him. He seems like, looking at his stats, he is the type of player that is going to work in our system. But the other pick in the first round, Hosang, is the more interesting one, given his I want to say his past misdeeds, not so much misdeeds, but the things he said and his attitude. But there's one quote that I like. He said, "I don't play for those other scouts. I play for the Islanders." So I do like his fire and grit,
Mhm.
and that's something that will really like fit in with the atmosphere of the team. And hopefully
Yeah.
he gets taken under the wings of some of the other players because it is really a good atmosphere despite poor season. Everyone seemed to
Mm.
enjoyed it. So, but the other moves, the final pick that we took in the draft, Lucas Suter, was seemed to be just like a family move because we had two of the Suter brothers on the team. So I was just like, hey, your uncle played for us. Congratulations, welcome to the team. He was a seventh round pick, so maybe he'll make it to the team one day.
Who? What?
Um,
I don't know what team hasn't had a suitor on them at one point. There has been so many suitors in the league.
I think it is just a rule written in the NHL bylaws that every team must have at least one suit. It's the one suitor policy.
You must have one suitor and one Yager. That's like the rules now. Or maybe one Jussi Jokinen too, because him and Ali Jokinen have gone around, so one Jokinen is also needed too.
I think so. Your team cannot be considered a legit NHL franchise unless you have had a suitor playing for it. I think that's the actual wording.
Uh, so I guess now we're gonna slip into the season coming up. So how do you truly feel about this season coming up?
Um, hmm. I think we'll be competitive, especially with the talent that we brought in free agency. I think we'll be hopefully, and I say hopefully because being a fan of the teams from New York recently, everything's falling off to bits with injuries and everything, whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
Um, looking at just reading what the happened with the Yankees today, but hopefully they'll be in the wild card hunt because that seems to be the right place we're at right now.
Okay,
Um,
I can see that.
maybe we'll catch a hot streak somewhere and like get a little higher into the actual Metropolitan Division race.
Hmm.
But
Maybe hopefully you'll take the New York Rangers place, and they get kicked out.
oh, I hope so.
I'd be very happy about that.
um, I think the dream of all Metropolitan Division teams who are not Rangers, Washington, or Pittsburgh is for those teams to finish at the bottom and like
Yeah,
Yonders, Flyers, and Columbus to finish.
basically the three considered underdog teams, I guess, of the Metropolitan Division, not
Yep.
including the Hurricanes because no one knows what's going on with the Hurricanes.
No,
But
Hur-
they're a different mess.
yeah, no. The thing with the Hurricanes is it's like, oh, we have a good team. Let's just go all at it for a Stanley Cup final. And then other matches, and then when it doesn't happen, it's like, okay, let's just go sit in the corner and eat paste again.
That sounds about right. So, do you truly think you're going to be? I guess you think you're going to be buyers at this trade deadline coming up here.
Um, oh, geez.
You know, it's like almost a year away, but what do you think?
I can barely think day to day. Sometimes I have to think a year away. um, I hope we're buyers at the deadline. I hope Garth Snow doesn't make a move before the deadline again, like he did this past season. And at the trade deadline, just looking at what happened last year, I hope this trade does involve giving, if we're not in contention, giving away a good piece for like something in return, but feels like nothing. Looking at you, Kohlberg, we could have gotten more from the Canadians, but we ended up with you. Um, but if we're I hope we're buyers, and maybe if we're in that wild card race, we'll be able to take like something away from this year,
Okay.
or something from this. I can't find the right word. Something from this trade deadline. There it is.
Okay.
Zoom tight.
Bless you.
Yeah, sorry, that was me.
Okay, so I have about two questions left. One is, who do you think is going to play on the top line with Tavares this year?
I was actually looking at this an hour ago. Projected lines, and it seems like a line that people think may happen is a definite pairing of Tavares with Okposo on the first line, but then on the left wing it gets a little iffy if it's going to be Grabner or Nelson, because Kuhlman and Grabowski is definitely going to be a pairing. There's no way you're going to split these guys up.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's going to be Nelson, Tavares, Okposo on the first line.
Okay.
And then after that, second line, Strome, Grabowski, Kuhlman. Third is Nielsen, Clutterbuck, and Grabner.
Okay. And
Yeah.
finally, why is McDavid going to be on your team next year? Going to be drafted by your team?
We're going to do so bad this year, guys, that he'll want to come to New York.
With the first round pick you don't have?
Yes. You see, this is the thing Buffalo doesn't understand. It's all part of strategy. We gave him a pick, but Garth Snow, being the savvy businessman that he is, wrote it on a dirty cocktail napkin in one of his own. I can't even say it with a straight face. From one of his hot tub parties that he usually goes to, and gave it to Murray. Sabres GM's like, trust me, you'll get the pick, but it's actually like he wrote the actual writing on it because it was all
smeared and all that.
Smeared is you'll get the 218th millionth round pick in the draft. Ha ha, psych. For taking McDavid, but in reality, we're probably not going to get McDavid, and hopefully we'll do well enough that we'll get a mid-round to later round draft pick instead of constantly being at the top.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, yeah, McDavid probably maybe is definitely going to be a Sabre, or I could say him even being a Florida Panther next year.
You never know what's going to happen. So
yeah.
I'd like to thank you for taking the time to talk to us about this.
Oh, no problem. Anytime.
I asked all my questions, so now I'm going to turn it over to Blake with the Vancouver Canucks coverage. So, Blake.
Alrighty. Well, and actually, one thing I will make, or Let me start that over. One thing I will say in regards to the New York Islanders, Andrew, um, speaking of the free agency, one thing I really liked about what the Islanders did, one thing I think they just absolutely knocked out of the ballpark was getting their goalie situation done early. Signing Halak right at the end of the season, getting Johnson, and now you have all this time to look for other people. That was well done with the goalies there.
Definitely, it was really smart that Snow got right out of the way because I guess he saw even last year that this was really pressing and we needed to get this sorted out before we could focus on all the other areas the team needs. But definitely.
Alrighty. Before we move into my interview, we'll reset. You've just heard Dave complete his interview with Andrew Paddock, APAD on Reddit, at Andrew Paddock on Twitter. You've just heard his interview with the regarding the New York Islanders. And now it is time for my interview, part 6, I think, of our
I believe so, yes. This is part 6.
Part 6 of our 30-part series in our NHL team overviews with the Vancouver Canucks. And once again, joining us is Stephanie Morrison, also known as Stephanie Ann 38, I want to say, on Twitter, and Grizzly Bear on Reddit. And we'll start, Stephanie, with looking over the Canucks season. Now, in this portion, I like to kind of split it up in the offense and defense and all that, but just to kind of interlude into it, just give us your overall thoughts on the previous season.
I think the previous season had we had a lot of hope. I think as Canucks fans always seem to have, and I'm an Ohioan, so I'm perpetually hopeful in my sports teams. Torts was a totally different identity for the team. He was a 180 from AB, and he was, in theory, kind of like a reset. So we started the season, I think, not so bad. We weren't great. December, we really hit our stride. Santo was scoring left and right. And then January comes around, and Hansel takes out David Booth and Henrik Sedin and Sandarelli, and all of a sudden we are a terrible, terrible team. After that, everything went downhill. It sort of snowballed out of control. We went on that, what was it, like a 9-game losing streak or something right before Sochi. I mean, it was like never-ending depression for Canucks fans. And I think it really, you could tell it got the team down. They were just not in it anymore, and they came back from the Olympic break, and just the Lou trade kind of didn't help anything. I think that you took a huge part of the team's identity away, and they were never going to climb back out of that hole. I think once March came around, everyone pretty much had given up on the Canucks making the playoffs, and that's when calling for Gillis's head started, and I think it was just a disaster of a season in the end. I don't think I can look back at that and even remember how I felt from October until December. I just remember pain.
Alrighty. Now let's talk about some specific aspects of the team. We'll start with the offense. You did mention the Sedins. The Sedins, as well as perhaps Kessler and most of the other stars of the offense, they were kind of struggling through most of the year. I assume I would be correct in that assumption.
Yeah, they don't really, at least the Sedins for sure, don't really gel with the Torts style. They just can't handle the physicality of how Torts likes to play. People like Zach Cassian, they thrive under that, but the Sedins just they don't. And it's not a matter of them being old; it's just not how they play.
And outside of the Sedins, would there have happened to have been any bright spots at all from any individual performances, or was it just across the board?
I think it's hard to say. With the Sedins, they with the whole season, they were still some of our top producers in the season, and I think they were 2 and 3 right behind. No, Henrik was our leading scorer, but Henrik and Daniel and Ryan Kessler were definitely our top 3 performers this season. So I think they still could perform under the different playing style, but at the same time, the Sedins, if you watch them, they work together as a tandem, and one of them was hurt for most of the season. Henrik got hurt, and then he came back, and Daniel got hurt right then, and then Daniel comes back, and Henrik gets hurt again, and they kind of need each other to thrive, and they just didn't have each other this year. So I think you're going to see that slowed production because they couldn't play with each other.
All right, and now the defense. I kind of thought that the defense under Torts with his, defense first style of coaching may have been a little bit better, but from an outsider standpoint, it looked to not be the case. But kind of talk about the Canucks defense from last season.
Well, I think it's very easy to say that the defense was better than the offense just on stats alone. I mean, you look at the fact that we were scoring an average of 1 goal per game. I think when you have a team that's not producing that much, your defense is automatically going to look better. But on top of that, we are very lucky to have a very strong decor on the team. You have Yexa and Ham Hughes, who have been 2 of our top defensemen for the past couple of years and have always worked well together. You have Edler, who was in a slump this year, but still producing, but definitely not having a good year. And you have Jason Garrison, who I believe was our points leader this year. He kind of kept us in the game there. And then we had some younger guys. You had Ryan Stanton and Tanev kind of coming into their own this year and doing well. And we don't really have any weak links. I think the offense has a little more. You look at David Booth, who wasn't scoring at all, and Alex Burrows, who spent half the season hurt and when he was back was not scoring. So when you compare them that way, the defense definitely was much, much stronger, and we had a little more depth to roll through than the offense did. So they definitely had a good year, and Torts does play a more defensive style. So it kind of catered to what we had already, which was nice. But again, it's just the offense wasn't producing, and that's where our problem was. If we had a couple more goals per game, then we probably wouldn't have ended up the way we did.
Alrighty, and now behind the defense, one of the more fascinating aspects of the team with how it has evolved over the past couple seasons, the goaltending. In the beginning, you have Luongo and Schneider. Then at the draft, you trade Schneider. And then you have Luongo and Lack. And then you trade Luongo, and now you have Lack and Markstrom. And there appear to be, a little bit of rumblings with Markstrom, rumors of requesting for a trade, but he has denied those claims. But I guess as it stands right now, and the goaltending through the season, your thoughts on that?
Well, yeah, we've kind of had goalie roulette for the past 2 years. I think that if we kind of jump a little bit to this coming season, I think that Benning's doing the right thing by bringing in Miller. I don't think this is a goalie controversy-prone team. I just think that Gillis kind of, I think it's a half Gillis's fault and half just the circumstances. I think people kind of forget when they talk about the goalie controversy that Lou had a no trade clause, and he had told Gillis he really only was going to waive for Florida. So it's kind of like a Ryan Kessler deal where you're handcuffed to one team and you gotta make it work. And whether Gillis had the opportunity to make it work and didn't pull the trigger until last year, or what was going on back there, I think that it definitely was a handcuffing on both sides a little bit. Schneider was the more tradable asset. I can't hate the trade for Schneider. I don't know about the return. I mean, we don't know what Horvat's going to do. He still has at least another year to develop before he's going to make it into the system. So I can't say if that was a bad trade, but I think getting Lou out finally and bringing someone in for Eddie and basically cementing that Eddie was going to be the future, I think that was definitely the right move. And then fast forwarding to this year, having Ryan Miller there, I'm not thrilled with the 3-year contract. I would be much happier if it was a 2-year contract so that they would have a year to kind of duke it out as a 1A, 1B tandem, and then we could buy him out, or we could trade him, or if something does happen where Eddie does need those 2 years, we could keep him. I mean, I think 2 years is a little more versatile. But, I'm not totally upset with the 3-year deal. I think that anyone that watched last year at the end of the season, you could tell that we were destroying Eddie Lack basically by shoving him in the starter position. And I think another year to develop and to be mentored is exactly what he needs. With Markstrom wanting to leave, which I do think he wants to leave, I don't blame him. He's going to have to get sent down through waivers to go to Utica anyway, and any team that's in the NHL, I mean, there's so many that would take him to develop him as a backup. So we're going to send him down, and he's going to get claimed in a heartbeat. So why not try to trade him now while he has value? Why not try to get something out of him? I mean, I don't necessarily see Markstrom being anywhere in the future, especially with us drafting Thatcher Demko. I really don't think that he has a place on the team or anywhere in the future. So I'm really happy with where the goaltending is. I don't think the controversy is going to continue. I really agree with the moves that Benning's making, and I'm excited to see Eddie Lack eventually become our franchise goalie, become our next Lou. I think that he could do it with just a little more time.
All right, and now the coaching. You play the season with Tortorella as the coach, and he's known for his his defensive first strategy, his kind of physical strategy, and that does not work out well for Vancouver.
Yeah.
Then you bring in Willie Brooks, fresh off a Calder Cup championship run with the Texas Stars. Kind of talk about Tortorella more and your expectations and your predictions, I guess, for Willie Brooks.
Do you mean Desjardins? Because
Desjardins. I don't know why I was thinking Brooks. Pardon me.
it's okay. It's okay. Yeah. So I'm very excited for this. I think that Torts, while I was not on the witch hunt, I guess maybe I just like to see the good in people. I think that Torts, while he didn't fit our system, he isn't. I don't know how to explain this. I think that bringing in Willie is much better for the team. With Torts, you have an experienced vet who plays a style that was great 10 years ago, but doesn't fit our team. It doesn't fit, playing California teams. I mean, they're just these big guys, and you got to score, and Torts' system doesn't allow for that. And we were a team that is very quick without a lot of physicality. It just wasn't a good match. I think bringing in Willie, bringing in someone who does not have NHL experience, bringing in someone who's hungry for a cup and wants to make a name for himself. I think that's better than bringing in a coach like Schwartz who's so set in his ways, so set in his style. I did not get a chance to watch much of Willie's style while he was in the AHL, but I believe, based on the interviews I've seen of him and the attitude he has coming into Vancouver, I think that he is willing to do what's best for the team and do what it takes to get a cup and not necessarily do what he wants to do. I don't think that he wants to. I don't think he's so cemented in his ways, and that's kind of what Vancouver needs right now. They don't need an ego. They don't need a, well, I've done this my whole life and I'm the best at it and you need to listen to me. He's going to bring a fresh outlook to the team, and I think that that's exactly what they need to be successful.
All right, now we'll move ahead into off-season talk. Dave, if you will, look up the list of Vancouver Canucks acquisitions and who they gave away for the.
Well,
Can we talk about,
if you look at the run sheet, I still have a few. I have a few of them in there you can go into first. So
Okay, well,
I'll look up the rest though.
okay. Well, I guess Stephanie, the question will be, what Vancouver did do in the off season with the free agency, and if it kind of the differences, the similarities between what they should have done and what you would have liked for them to do.
I'm actually really happy with pretty much every single move they made. I honestly, I can't think of one that I'm really upset about. I know that the Kessler trade was very one-sided. Anaheim definitely got a little more out of that deal, but for the most part, I'm pretty happy with the moves that were made. I think moving Ryan Kessler, whether we got as much back in skill as we should have, we got rid of a giant ego and a giant locker room cancer, which I think speaks more volumes than player skill ever could. And then trading away Jason Garrison, while that kind of broke my heart a little bit personally because he's one of my favorite players, getting back Lyndon Bay, who is someone who can be a young gun and be a good. We can raise him to be a scorer. We can raise him to sort of fit the Vancouver style, and I think getting him back for that trade was good. And within the Kessler trade, we kind of replaced Garrison with Schiza, which is another thing. Like I said before, our D-core is pretty set. They're old. Well, they're not old, but they're in their 30s or around their 30s. So trading away a 30-year-old Jason Garrison and adding a 24-year-old into the mix through the Kessler trade, I think allows for a smooth transition once, Bieksa and Hamhuis retire in the next, 5 or 6 years. We will have some young guns who can take their places. And I think that was definitely a good move in the end. When the Kessler trade happened, just seeing the Kessler trade, it felt like we were going to be screwed. But as the trades kept going, things got better, and you can kind of see where everything was fitting together.
And there was, of course, as you mentioned earlier, the acquisition of Ryan Miller. Now, I'll say a couple things regarding Miller from his time in St. Louis, and then you can comment with your thoughts on that afterwards.
Okay.
Now, a lot of people in St. Louis, especially, and a little bit of the outside media people, and all the other people just outside of the team fan base and whatnot, they got in on it a little too. But a lot of people they love to bag on Miller too. One of the more irritating things they did, I think, was compare his save percentage to Halak's save percentage. And I keep telling them every single time, this is you're essentially comparing apples and oranges. Yeah, you're comparing Halak's save percentage, which he's been with the team 2, 3, 4 seasons, to Miller's save percentage, which he's only been there 2 month and a half, 2 months or so. So that small sample size, it's not really going to do you any justice. And the biggest problem simply was that the defense, they just didn't have enough time to gel with him, and he didn't have enough time to gel with the franchise, or the franchise, I guess, in their style of play. A lot of people automatically thought that since Miller was going from Buffalo to a far more talented and skilled and overall better team in St. Louis, that he was just going to be automatically awesome, but it just doesn't work that way. Miller's seen the same system that is almost essentially built around him for the past 12 seasons. And then he goes to a whole new system, and it doesn't really suit him that well. But on top of that, the defense, they had to get used to him. And the time he was there, that was nowhere near enough time for him to be totally 100% comfortable. Now, of course, I do understand that the biggest reason he was acquired here was to steal some of those playoff games and essentially just take us to a cup run. I get that, but you can't put all of the onus on him for our failures in the playoff series. The team goes 2 for 39 on the power play, and of course that defense, they were doing some rather questionable stuff too. So I kind of get the feeling that a lot of Vancouver fans are looking at Miller's time in St. Louis and basing their opinions off of that, which I don't really think does him that much justice.
No, I agree with that. I honestly, even looking at the broader spectrum, I think when these teams make these runs at the deadline to just collect everyone good, and then they think they're going to win a cup, I just think sometimes I think that's just not even a good mentality to have. You're throwing these players in who are going from completely different systems, and you're telling them you have 2 months to learn how to play with these guys, and you're going to win us a cup. It doesn't work like that.
Look at the Pittsburgh Penguins.
Yes,
Yeah.
Pittsburgh is the perfect example of that.
I think it's silly when teams try to do that, because it's just dumb. It's not like the Olympics where you have a bunch of all-stars that can play together. You are taking an average team. It's not with maybe 1 or 2 all-stars. It's just not going to work like that. So I think if any Canucks fan takes this time in St. Louis, they need to take a step back. They should look at his time in Buffalo, because he did grow up with that system, and he spent more time there, and he wasn't thrown in a position with guys that he didn't know. Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with you there. As far as him playing in Vancouver, I think that he'll be good as long as he knows what he's there for. I don't want to see him I don't want to see this turn into a Corey Schneider, Roberto Luongo situation where he wants to be the prima donna. I think as long as he can take a step back and want to play with Eddie Lack and not necessarily try to ruin him, we'll be in a good position. I just hope that Ryan Miller doesn't think that he's still an all-star elite goalie, because I don't necessarily consider him one of the greatest in the league anymore. I definitely don't think he's in the top 3 like he used to be.
And that's another important thing to consider too. Miller's role in Vancouver, his expected role, it's going to be leaps and bounds different than it was in St. Louis. In St. Louis, his role was to be the number 1 goalie, that one guy that was going to take the team all the way to the cup, And
Yeah, he was supposed to carry them.
Whereas now in Vancouver, he's going to be more like that mentor kind of guy, that 1A, 1B kind of guy, because I'm sure it's already been made clear that Eddie Lack is going to be the future of that franchise.
Yeah.
And bringing in Miller, he's going to be able to mentor him and let him grow. And they do that 1A, 1B, so Miller could get some action in there, of course, and Lack could learn from his experience as having Miller as a teammate.
Yeah, I mean, I hope that this is going to be a different role for Ryan Miller, because even in Buffalo, he was still expected to be the man that carried the team. And so I think that this is something that's going to be very different for him. And I hope that he can rise to the challenge and see that he is on the, not necessarily on the downswing, but he's definitely out of his prime at this point, just on the cusp of the edge of his prime, I would say. And I think he needs to start seeing that he is not going to be that all-star anymore, and I hope that he takes that role and does what's best for the team, because if he does what's best for the team, it will be what's best for him, and I hope that he sees that.
Mm-hmm. And going back to free agency in general, one thing I noticed from a quick glance at Vancouver's list of free agency pickups, Vancouver's really trying to focus on their defense, it seems like. Dave, if you could pull up a list of defenders from Vancouver, perhaps, and kind of list them off.
You need me to list them off for you?
Well, I suppose you can if you have that
I
readily
mean,
available.
we have Ham Houston Bieksa and Edler and Stanton, Spiza and Tanev, and then we have Weber and Corrado right now. Those are kind of our guys.
And but the free agency pickups, all those people, I noticed Vancouver mainly got defensemen from those, and it just looks to me that Vancouver's trying to work on the defense more, kind of.
Well, you have to see that we have some guys that are getting older and are out of their are getting out of their prime. So I think that Benning is trying to stack the team for the next couple of years. I think he's more looking to the future. If you look at everyone we signed, they're all people that are going to be there. Hopefully, will be there later. It seems like he's building depth rather than trying to sign people to necessarily break out this year.
That is a valid point, yes. Okay, let's transition into the draft and your overall thoughts on who Vancouver picked up, and let's be kind of upfront with this one. Do like let's start with like a report card grade, A minus, B, whatever, of how you would rank Vancouver in the draft.
I think I would give them. I would probably give them like a B plus. I think they did really good. Virtanen is a really quick offensive guy. I think that he will be good to maybe be a Burrows replacement when Burrows eventually retires. I think that I could see Virtanen taking that role. The reason I wouldn't give them an A for that is just because Virtanen is he's not really a playmaker. He's just a scorer. So I would like to see him grow a little bit more in his playmaking. I would like to see some more assists come out of him. But I think overall he was a good pickup, and he's someone that he wants to be there. And I think that Benning drafted him with the intent that he would be a replacement for one of our core. So I'm excited to see where he could be in the next 5 years, what he could do with the team. And then getting Jared McCann, who models his play after Ryan Kessler, which I don't know if that was necessarily why we would pick him up, but I think that he's someone that could be a Ryan Kessler again. In 5 years, we could see a very good defensive forward come back into Vancouver. So I'm really pleased with picking him up. I think he's someone that was a late first rounder that could end up blooming into something awesome, which again is, another Ryan Kessler who was, I think Ryan Kessler was 23rd or 24. I don't remember. It was a long time ago. But he was a later first round pick, and he ended up obviously being Ryan Kessler. So I think that Jared McCann has the potential to get there. And then, like I said before, Thatcher Demko, I think that he is the future after Eddie Lack. I want to see Eddie Lack mentoring him, and I think that he was a good pickup too. I'm glad we got a goaltender. So I mean, I think overall the draft they did pretty good, and they built for the future, which is what we need.
All right, and before we look ahead into the next season, through the rest of this offseason and the free agency signing period, kind of a two-part question here. Would you expect the management to make any more moves versus would you like the management to make any more moves?
I think that they will, just because they've been very kind of shocking us at every turn, so it wouldn't surprise me at all if they made another move. We still have a bunch of cap space left, so I could see them maybe signing someone else. But I personally think that they should start the season with where they are now. I just see where we can get them, but I also have not watched a lot of these guys play, these new guys we brought in, so I'm maybe not an authority to say. I want to see what this team can do. I'm excited for some of the people we picked up, like Vibrata. I want to see them play before I guess you can make any decisions. We made so many moves that I can't even imagine how this team is going to gel.
All right, and we'll look ahead into the next season now. The Pacific Division, it's the California teams. They rule the roost, and it's kind of a three-way battle for the Central Division crown. But looking ahead into next year, what would it take for Vancouver to, even at the very least, give them a little bit of a scare?
You gotta score some goals. That's probably the number one thing. They gotta score some goals. You watch some of the California games, and it wasn't like the Islanders where you watch them get blown out 7-2. Like I think that they stand a chance against California if they can get their offense on track. We do have more physical players who can keep up. We do have people like Zach Cassian who can have some physicality in the game, but I mean, the goals got to be there if they want to win, and that's how you beat California. We've got a good defense, and we've got a good goalie tandem now, and I think that we could be successful with a little more production.
All right. Now, let's do this. Let's kind of set a timetable, less than 5 years, less than 10 years, something like that, of when you could see Vancouver making it into the playoffs.
I mean, if it takes them 10 years to get in the playoffs, I'm quitting. I don't know. I think that they're going to be a fringe team this year. You got a lot of new guys. They got to learn how to play together. There could be instant chemistry, but I'm not holding my breath. Again, I'm from Ohio. I'm not holding my breath. But I think that they could be an outlier this year, if not be an 8 seed. I foresee them being contenders in the next 3 years. I think in 3 years we could give some teams a run for their money.
All right. And now these final 3 questions. I'm not sure if I was paying attention, but I don't think I heard Dave ask Andrew these last 3 questions earlier. If you have not, Dave, I'll ask these, and then you and Andrew can kind of touch on these, because I think these are really kind of more interesting, kind of fun questions. Give us an insight into the team a little more.
I know.
Number one, and these will all be looking into the next season. Well, I guess this could be both for Stephanie and Andrew here. I'll be the moderator of these three questions. First Stephanie, then Andrew. First question is, who do you think would be your team's top goal and or points getter?
Oh gosh. Yeah, I'm gonna go on a limb here and say I think Vibrato will be. He's great when he has a playmaker next to him. We have a great one named Henrik Sedin. So I'm going to be hopeful and say that I think he could do it.
Alrighty, and Andrew?
It's probably and most likely going to be John Tavares again. If it's not, I'm going to actually go out on a limb and say Okposo, maybe, but it's probably going to be John Tavares.
Well, live a little, go on a limb.
Fine, the real, definitely out on the limb.
That's the easy answer.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Fine, the real out on the limb, Grabowski, actually. That's my very out on the limb.
Alrighty, the second question now. Who would you expect to be your team's overall top player, offense, defense, goaltending? Stephanie?
Overall. I don't know. I mean, safe bet's always going to be a Sedin. It's always going to be Henrik. I think if you can get him back in form, I think that he will be the captain that I know he is.
Alrighty. Andrew, I think I know what you're about to say in this one, but let's hear it anyway.
It's damn it. It's gonna be John Tavares.
Ah, yes.
It's such an easy one. I could. I can't say otherwise. He is truly our best player.
Now this one's the fun one. This last one. This one's my favorite, and we'll get a really more interesting answer from Andrew out of this one. Let's say that everything that could go wrong with your team will go wrong. Who would be the number one player you would see from the fan base, from the media? Who would you see would be that public enemy, public enemy number one, the guy that would get thrown under the bus the most? Stephanie?
Well, that did happen to my team this season. I think that given the history of Vancouver and the controversy of the Miller signing, Ryan Miller will get thrown under the bus.
Oh, no.
I don't know if he could take that.
I think he had enough of that in St. Louis, given St. Louis's history.
I can't see a single person getting thrown under the bus, but I can see Ryan Miller getting thrown under there. Always a goal.
Always a goaltender.
Alrighty, Andrew.
I can't see a player getting thrown under the bus because it seems with Islander fans, the players are the ones who don't make the mistakes. But if someone does get thrown under the bus, it will either be Capuano, the coach, especially with the way he does his line sometimes is interesting. But the definite bus thrower or bus throwee is Snow, and if the new and hopefully Wang isn't. If Wang's still the owner by the end of this season, because I know he's selling, definitely Wang again, because it's always fun to throw Charles P. Wang under the bus.
Oh boy. Alrighty, Dave. Before we wrap up, looking through the draft order and kind of a preview on next week's episode.
Tough, I got to pull that up. Just start talking. I'll look it up. 1 second.
Alrighty. We'll go through the board one more time. This has been the Wooden Ball Show with special guests Stephanie Morrison. You can find her on Reddit. Her username is Grizzly Bear. And you can find her on Twitter. Her handle is StephanieAnn38, I believe. And Andrew Paddock has also joined us. You can find him on Reddit. His username is APAD. And you can find him on Twitter at Andrew Paddock.
Hey, can you spell that, Andrew?
It is.
That was a joke.
Well, the whole handle is one word. But Paddock is spelled Paddyk, not the English form of Paddock, because YK is much more fun and interesting.
Yes.
I was more surprised because Ron always asks me that on the After Hours show.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay. Dave, did you pull up that
Yes,
draft?
we have the Canes and the Leafs next week.
Oh, that one's going to be very interesting there.
The Leafs is going to be the most fun.
Yes.
Which you're covering, Blake. You're covering the Leafs.
Yes,
Blake.
yes.
So that's going to be a lot of fun.
Alrighty. And once again, we'd like to thank Stephanie and Andrew for joining us this week.
Yes.
And for the Wooden Ball Show, I am Blake Wood. You can find me on Reddit. My Reddit username is btownbomb. And you can find me on Twitter. My handle is @ShattenMyKirk. With me, as always, is my trusty sidekick, Dave.
I am not the sidekick.
The Laurel to my Hardy, Dave. Wow, that actually sounded pretty wrong. Oh well. Anyway, Dave, you can find him on Reddit. His username is Blinson, and his Twitter handle is @Blinson1. And for our hockey cast, you can find us on Reddit. Our Reddit address is @OurHockeyCast. You can find us on Twitter @OurHockeyCast. You can look up our website where you can listen through previous episodes from Our HockeyCast programming, www.ourhockeycast.com.
It does not have the www in front of it. That will not direct you to the site. Just
well now, yes. Forget the www part. I forget it's no longer the late 90s, early 2000s. And our YouTube channel, Our HockeyCast, is also where you can find previous episodes of Our HockeyCast programming.
Mm-hmm. And I believe tonight we will be having the Our Hockey After Hour show. Is that going to go on tonight, Andrew? Do you know at all?
I think so. I just have to double check.
Okay, and that usually starts between like 11 or 1 a.m. or something like that. 11 p.m., 1 a.m.
Yes.
Somewhere in there.
So stay tuned for
either
that.
11:30 or 12.
Okay.
Yes, we invite you all to stay awake for that when they provide you with more hockey insight and, yes, a lot of side gags and whatnot.
If you're ever hungry, I probably would not watch that show.
We go off topic so much, but it's so much fun.
Yeah,
oh, yes.
It's a lot of fun to listen to in the morning, so.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Alrighty.
Does anybody have anything else to say before we sign off? No?
Nope.
Okay then, so I guess have a good night, everybody.